Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am sitting down and I'm going to be answering a bunch of questions. I asked you guys over on my Instagram to hit me with your questions, whether it's about moving in the new house or pregnancy or food and nutrition, mom life. Like, I just wanted you guys to kind of ask me whatever, because it's been a long time since I've done one of these Q&As, and I always enjoy watching these as like a viewer of other channels. I feel like it really helps me get to know people, and I just really enjoy, hearing people's answers to questions. So in today's video, we're gonna do a little Q&A, so let's get started. Okay, if you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm just at Becca Bristow. I'm pretty easy to find. And I share a lot more like behind the scenes. I would say YouTube is for sure my main platform where I post content, weekly, but I do like to pop on Instagram and share a little bit more of like the background of our lives. So you guys gave me a bunch of questions and I am just gonna dive in. They're like on all kinds of stuff. The very first one I saw is, how is Rosie Girl? Rosie Girl is great. She's laying behind me on the bed right now. She just turned 7, but she still has, when she's outside running around, she still acts like a puppy, but most of the day she just hangs out and is like the snuggliest pup. We love Rosie very much. Okay, someone asked, when was your new house built? Is it as old as the farmhouse? No, it's not as old, but it's still an older house. We actually found out that it was built around World War II, so 1940s-ish, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact year. But anyway, so that's when it was built, but it was actually built to look like an English cottage. I think someone else asked, why do I keep calling it the cottage? It's because it looks like an English cottage, like what you would find in like the countryside. It was literally built to look like that. So it looks older on the inside. Some of like the architectural features looks older than it actually is, but it's early, mid 1900s, somewhere in there. Okay, any potty training tips specifically for girls? Yes, I do have potty training tips, or really one tip, and my biggest tip is just to wait until they are ready. I made this mistake the first time with my oldest, and when she was I think around that 22-month mark, I read that 3-day potty training guide that a lot of people recommend and swear by, and it does work for their kids. And she says 22 months is the best time. So I tried it, and it was literally the biggest fail. It was laughable how much she was not understanding. And I was so determined. I'm I just got to do it for 3 days and she'll get it. And it didn't work. She just wasn't ready, and that's totally fine. And then we waited until she was 2.5, coming up on 3. And it was literally it was so easy. We just had the potty. She completely understood it. It was not a thing to potty train her. Now, they do still have accidents. I had this mentality when I did that 3-day guide or whatever, that you do this one time and then they're never gonna have an accident. And maybe that's true for some kids, but that certainly hasn't been true for mine. They're still they're just so little still. And that's a lot to have to control and figure out. So, there still might be accidents after you potty train, but after that initial week where you're really focused on it, and they're completely understanding what's going on, in my experience, it's been much easier. We've kind of started potty training Hadley, who is 2.5, not quite 3. She'll be 3 in February. And we've started, and she's kind of getting it at home. But we've kind of just decided, we're just going to wait a few more months, because she's not quite getting it. And there's just no point in forcing it and it being the source of stress and frustration. And obviously you don't want to be frustrated at them for having accidents. You want to be really casual. It's no big deal. You don't want any shame. You just want it to be this, lighthearted experience, because that makes it easier. So we're just gonna wait a little while for her, and then we'll figure it out in a few months. Do you have any suggestions for those with PCOS when it comes to diet or anything else? I'm definitely not an expert in PCOS, but from a nutrition standpoint, one of the biggest things that I know of is understanding blood sugar, understanding what kind of foods impact blood sugar, and then understanding how to pair foods together, choose certain foods. For the most part, again, I'm all for balance and I'm not for absolutes, that are going to really help not spike your blood sugar and then cause low blood sugar, which then causes you to eat more carbs and then spike your blood sugar. I have an entire video I did a few years back on blood sugar. I also talk a lot about it in my eating for energy video. I can link all these videos down below, but I would go through that, and that is like, and that I teach everybody about blood sugar when it comes to nutrition. I think it's one of the most important and overlooked things when it comes to fueling your body and feeling good and understanding how to actually nourish yourself. So that is like probably the number one thing. There's definitely other things, I'm sure, but from what I know, blood sugar is a big one. Okay, someone asked, grass-fed liver or multi-organ supplement better? So like, what's better? So liver is it's like the most nutrient dense food that you can eat. I've been a huge proponent of consuming liver for many years now. I actually personally discovered it like a few years ago after I had my miscarriage, and I was really diving deep into like nutrition and fertility. And liver is one of the best things that you can eat because it's so nutrient dense. But there's also other supplements on the market nowadays that like are multi-organ. So one of the ones that I love from Ancestral Supplements is their beef organs supplement. They also just have a straight up beef liver supplement. Beef liver supplement is an excellent supplement. Again, it's like nature's multivitamin. That's what some people like to call it. It's very, very nutrient dense because the liver for both humans and animals is where most of your nutrient stores, like all your backup nutrients that you're storing for later use, most of them are in the liver. Same goes for animals. So when you're eating liver, you're obviously getting all of those nutrients. Most people don't want to eat liver though, because it's not the most palatable, let's say. So supplementing it is a great second option. That's much easier to do on a very regular, daily basis. But you can also get multi-organ supplements. I love I said this already, sorry, beef organ supplement from Ancestral Supplements. It has other things in there, like it has spleen. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it has several. So that's just going to like add even more kind of bang for your buck, I guess. Just a liver supplement on its own is great, and I would always recommend that. But if you want to, have something that's maybe even more nutrient dense, specifically if you're trying to support certain organs outside of just like getting all that nutrition from the liver supplement, then that would also be a great choice. But I feel like you can't necessarily go wrong. Liver on its own, but if you want to go for a multi-organ supplement, that's also a great choice. Biggest advice for new moms. Okay, I would say my biggest piece of advice is, even though you're not a mom yet, or maybe you're still pregnant, or maybe you just became a new mom, all of this is new to you, right? It's a lot to go through. It's a lot to learn. It's a huge life transition. But just because you're new at this doesn't mean you don't have the instincts to know what's the best thing for your baby or your babies. You were chosen to be that mother for that child, and there is a lot of power in that. Motherly instincts are very real, and I would say just follow your gut and do what feels best and what makes the most sense for your family, because you will see, especially on social media, it's so divisive. Like literally pick any topic when it comes to motherhood, and there are going to be two sides that are vehemently opposed to one another. That's at least what it seems. But the thing is, you get to pick and choose what is right for you and your family. We all live different lives. We all have different priorities. We all have different personalities. We all have different, schedules. Like we all are leading very different lives, just parallel to one another. So for me to say this works for me, so it should, this is what you should be doing, is ludicrous. Like we're all coming from different points here. So do what works best for your family. There's so much advice out there, but always just stick to what feels best for you, and what you feel like makes you the best, most whole mom, because that is the most important thing at the end of the day. If you can't pour from an empty cup, which is tough because motherhood is tough. And I feel like most of the time I do have like an empty cup, and I'm trying my best, and it's not an easy thing. But just know that you have instincts within you, and you know what's best for your baby. So just follow that. You can, listen to the advice, take what sounds good, leave what doesn't, and just do your best. Are you nervous about little ones and all the stairs at the cottage? No, I'm actually not, for two reasons. One, we have two staircases here already, and like I'm used to keeping, well, the girls are fine on the staircases. Beau can go up and down the stairs, but I don't like him to do it by himself, obviously. He's still a baby, he's 1. But no, I'm actually not worried about it because 1, I'm so used to having 2 staircases. But 2, actually, what's kind of weird is both of the staircases, like in the new house, actually have doors, or like one has like this weird old gate. I'm just gonna keep it there because it's actually so convenient because I can actually close off the stairs either via door or this like old gate that's there. Installing baby gates and plaster walls which is why I don't have any here, is just kind of a nightmare, and it ruins the wall and I need to patch it, and it's just a whole thing, which is why I never did it. So here there's kind of like built-in gates where I can actually close off the stairs. So I'm actually so excited about that because I can literally close off the stairs and not have to be like constantly like, okay, where do they go? Are they like, is Beau on the steps? What's happening? Where'd he go? So I'm actually really excited about that and not nervous at all. Someone said, why are you moving? I thought you wanted a large property for all the animals. So I did do an entire video talking like all my thoughts on why we decided to move. When we bought this house, we thought we would be here forever, but like our mindset really changed. I explained all of that in that video, but I didn't actually talk about like the farming aspect of it. And I'll mention that here. So we have chickens, we had goats, we had Nigerian dwarf goats. They actually moved to a good friend of mine, her farm. She's got chickens, she's got horses, she has 2 little boys, and she's got another one on the way. And they are so loved there. We do miss the goats, but we don't have this, we just don't have really the space for them at the new house. And I was just really honestly so happy to find a good home for them with people that I know and I trust, and we can still go visit them, which is amazing. But something that I learned in because we did buy this house and we had these big dreams of, kind of like leaning into more of the homestead life and having the animals and like doing all that. And the garden, which we did have. I still have room for chickens, and I still have room for a garden and plenty of room for our kids to run and play at the new house. But something I learned living here and trying to like step into that life is, for me personally, in this season that I'm in of like very little kids, like being pregnant, having newborns, nursing around the clock, like it is such a high demand that I just like literally don't have the capacity to like also take on like a full-blown farm. Like I know that there's lots of women out there who are like, 9 months pregnant, milking their cows, and I applaud them. I don't know how they do it. Truly, I don't, because it's a lot. And like to take care of animals and be responsible for animals is a huge undertaking, and it's not something that I take lightly. And even thinking about like milking them and then dealing with all the milk, and it's a massive job. And I am just, in my point of life right now, I just literally I just don't have the capacity, and I finally just came to terms with that, and that's okay. Like I don't have to be doing that just because everybody else is, and that's not why I was doing it. I always kind of had those dreams, but my kids are honestly just so young. Like they're not even, they had fun with the animals, but they're not benefiting from like pitching in and helping and learning a good work ethic, which is a big reason why we got them. They're just too young. So maybe down the line when my kids are older, that's something that we'll go back to. But at this season of life, I am like totally fine, just like have my chickens and a garden, and that is plenty for me, and I'm so content with that. And where we're moving, it's not like, we still have plenty of space. We've got a couple acres, but we're not gonna be like homesteading or any of that. It's gonna be much more low-key, chickens, garden, and I'm actually really happy with that. Okay, 2 baby questions. First is, did you eat your placenta for all the babies? And you bet I did. I had it encapsulated, so they put it in capsules. And I know that grosses some people out, but like literally I have had great postpartum experiences. Like I would literally any day of the week, I would much rather be like in the first 3 months postpartum than pregnant, because pregnancy to me is so hard. Postpartum is always, other than being really tired, that is tough. Very breezy, like it is. Like having a new baby and adjusting to all that, it's not easy, but like I always feel incredible outside of being tired. I always have great energy. My mood is great. Like I am just, the second that baby comes out, I am like, woo, this is the good part. Like I am so happy to be postpartum, and I've never struggled with postpartum depression. I had a little bit of anxiety around Hadley's pregnancy, but I think that had so much more to do with the fact that it was like 2020 and 2021 and the world was like, what was happening? But that is like all gone. I don't really experience that anymore. But I've always had really, really good postpartum experiences. And every time I've encapsulated my placenta, and I've always had excellent breast milk supply, never had to worry about breast milk. So I am a huge proponent of it. I've never not had a postpartum experience without it, so I can't really compare. But my postpartum experiences have been so great that there's no way that I would never not do it, just in case. Okay, and then speaking of breastfeeding, how long did I breastfeed each of my babies? So Hayden was the longest. She was, I think, like 18 months, if I remember correctly. And then Hadley and Beau were both like right at a year. And we like just squeaked by with both of those kids like making it to a year, because both times I was already pregnant again. With Hadley, I got pregnant when she was like 7, 8 months old. And then with Beau, I was like 11 months old. He was 11 months old, but it wasn't so much supply issues with him, but a lot of issues with his teeth and my nipples. It was very painful, like almost went to formula, and then was just kind of like, at this point, I'm so close. It honestly would probably be easier just to keep nursing. So I did. So yeah, so Hayden was the longest, like 1.5 years, and then Beau and Hadley were a year. Are you going to wait to find out the gender again like your last? Yes, we plan to wait and have a surprise at the birth. We found out with both girls. We did gender reveals. It was so fun. But this time we're just doing a surprise again, because that's also fun. I feel like you honestly can't go wrong either way. I enjoyed both experiences, but since we already have girls, we have a boy, I have everything that I need. I'm just kind of like, why not? Like, let's just let it be a mystery the whole time, because that just kind of makes it super fun. But some people are like so opposed to one or the other. I feel like either way is super fun. So I feel like you can't go wrong. How far along are you now? I am 17 weeks and a few days. I don't know how many days, but 17 weeks. So getting close to the halfway mark. Can you do a tour of your current house before you move? Love your style. Yes, I actually, when we had the house like super clean and organized, and the kids were out of the house, they were with my mom to do like right before we had our a bunch of showings. We actually moved to my parents' house for several days to like let a bunch of the showings come through, because let me tell you, literally the most stressful experience of my life was showing our last house, and I only had one kid. Just trying to keep it clean in between, and just like rushing when you like got a notification. It was like the worst experience of my life. I was like, I'll never do that to myself again. Luckily the house went quickly. So we were only out for like a weekend, and, but yeah, so I did film, long story short, I filmed the whole house, like a whole house tour, like kind of before we leave, to show you guys, because there's a lot of spaces that we worked on or whatever that I just never got around to showing you. So I will have a video at some point showing you a full house tour of the farmhouse before we leave. A lot of people are asking about square footage of this house to the new house. The new house, we wanted to downsize. This house is, we love this house, but it is humongous. It is way more space than we need. The new house is like less than half of the square footage of this one. And I'm actually really, really excited about that, because it's really overwhelming to take care of a really large house. It's just a lot of responsibility. It's just so many more things not that really things have gone wrong, but it's a little more daunting, let's say. And just to keep it clean and all that, it's just a lot. So I'm really excited to be in a smaller house that just comes with like less territory to manage and less responsibility. Okay, do you follow strict routine for kids, sleep, etc.? Do they get screens? Okay, so we are pretty like, I mean, I wouldn't say we're like strict with our kids' routine. Like they're all little. We're doing homeschool preschool, so they're all of them are at home all the time. And you know, I have to fit in work, and Matt does, and it's a little bit of a juggle. I feel like we could probably honestly have a better like rhythm to our day. It's just kind of like more willy-nilly. But so there's no like strict routine. Bedtime, like we're pretty, like our kids go to bed early. Like we've always been big on sleep. Even when like my kids are little, I mean, I guess I technically sleep train, but I don't do like the crazy cry it out, just like let them have at it for 2 weeks and be like, you know, screaming in their bed until they just stop crying. I basically do like a light sleep training when I'm ready for them to move out of our room, which is usually around like 5 months, maybe 6. I do like a light sleep training just so they learn how to fall asleep on their own. And it's very modified. I'm going in, I'm soothing them, I'm picking them up. It's always like, it's never like a harrowing experience, like by any means. I would say it's pretty breezy, but they learn how to fall asleep on them by themselves. So that helps a little bit with cutting down on like night wakings. But basically, if my kids wake up in the middle of the night, even after I sleep train them, I always go in and feed them. Like I do not let them, there's no crying overnight, not until they're like a year when I know that like they're good. And usually there's like literally no crying. They're just like, okay, I guess she's not coming. Like so I'm usually up with them in the night feeding 1 to 2, sometimes 3 times a night for that first year. I don't do any kind of sleep training overnight, but I do a light sleep training so they learn how to fall asleep on their own, like for naps and at bedtime. So I guess I'm strict with that. And then and then screens, we actually like kind of cut screens completely last winter, somewhat. We've never done iPads. I just like never wanted to go down that road. I never wanted to have to like haggle or deal with it, or I just didn't want to do the iPads. So we've never ever done iPads. My kids we don't own them. None of that. But TV, they used to watch shows, and you know, it became like a daily thing where they would watch shows, which like, I don't know. So basically we cut them out because the main thing was I hated being like the referee on like the screen time. Cause you know, they ask for the show. If I say no, it's a meltdown. And then, you know, screens really do like get kids' brains going. So then, you know, we'd watch the show and it would be like, woo, 30 minutes of like time where I can like do stuff. But then afterwards, it's time to turn it off. It was a meltdown. So it felt like it was just it actually caused way more strife than it did like give relief, which I feel like is kind of the point of turning it on. And obviously it's entertainment for them. So I think it was last February, we literally did like a screen-free month, which was way harder on me and Matt, honestly, than it was on them. They like quickly stopped asking to watch shows, but I learned I was in such a habit of just like, okay, fine, I'll turn it on. And then I just can like check out for like 30 minutes. So I honestly think it was harder for us than it was for them. And then they literally don't ask to watch TV. Every Saturday we watch a movie, we put a movie on and they know, okay, Saturday is like movie day. They get to like cuddle up on the couch with blankets and snacks and they watch a movie and it's great. And they know that once the movie's over, we move on, we go play. There's no real meltdowns involved. There's no like begging us to watch shows all the time. And we always feel like we're having to say no or give in. Like it's just so much easier. And I feel like the girls play better together. They still have like, you know, they still have emotions. Like they're not robots now because they don't have screens. Like I think sometimes people overpromise the no screen thing, but it has been easier and I wouldn't go back to what we were doing before. So yes, I get screens, but it's a minimal amount. Do you recommend topical vitamin D for the winter months? Not topical, but I do recommend vitamin D in general, especially in the winter months when you're not getting any from the sun. But sometimes, like unless you're really, sometimes people don't even get enough in the summer months, especially if you're always putting on sunscreen when you go outside, you're completely blocking the rays that your body will use to actually synthesize the vitamin D in your skin. And you really need like midday sun, like a good amount of sun exposed, like daily, for like at least 30 minutes to really get like a good dose of vitamin D. So a lot of people get that, but a lot of people don't. If you're working and you're in an office all day and you're inside, like through the midday sun, like you're not getting it. So I do recommend vitamin D, not topical, oral. I love the super vitamin D from Young Living. I also really like the Mary Ruth Organics, her like vitamin D K2 spray. Those would be the 2 that I have taken and would recommend. Any recs for Bassinet? I'm pregnant with my first baby. Okay, I am one of those bougie moms that has the snoo. And don't regret it. That thing is amazing. I think you can rent them now. You could not rent them when I bought it years ago. You had to buy it. They do go on sale. I remember we got it like on sale and it was like a few $100s off, which it was still expensive, but yeah, I don't regret it. I love the snoo. My sister borrowed it for her last baby and she was like, this thing's amazing. Like it really is like the best bassinet if you want to be able to sleep, because they just don't want to lay down by themselves and sleep. And like, unless you're co-sleeping, then you don't really even need a bassinet. I feel like I'm like a super crunchy mom, but I don't co-sleep. It's not because I'm against co-sleeping. I have so many friends that co-sleep. It clearly can be done safely because tons of people co-sleep. But it's not for me. I can't relax when there's a baby in the bed. I don't sleep. I'm like on edge, and if, you know, any sleep that I can get, I want it to be as deep and as restorative as possible. So it just doesn't really work for me. So I love the snoo. Okay, can you give an update on how the house renovation is going and video? Yes, I need to get in there, and so I did put the empty house tour up, and one of the bathrooms is like almost redone, so I can give an update on that. And then our kitchen is completely torn up, like down to the studs, like the beams are exposed, which I think I'm gonna keep exposed, and I'm really excited. Walls are coming down. There's a bunch of faux walls up right now. Our contractor is there like every day during the week working on it, so it's hard to get in there during the week, but I'm gonna try and get in there on the weekend and maybe give like a little update on what's going on over there. Okay, with 3 littles, this one made me laugh. With 3 littles, I never see toys scattered around. What's the secret to keeping tidy? Okay, there is no secret. My house is not tidy. I feel like you don't see toys scattered around because I don't really show my kids much, like a ton on social media. They're rarely ever in my YouTube videos, and then like maybe glimpses of them on Instagram, but it's usually me like working, so I'm not showing the kids, I'm not showing anything related to the kids. But oh my God, no, there's toys everywhere. There's toys everywhere. And that is one of the reasons why I'm so excited to move to a smaller house, because literally they'll be like, I will find toys where I'm like, how did this even get to like this far away from where it usually is? Like they're everywhere. It's a constant battle. We try our best. Like we're not the best with it. I need to get better with like inviting my kids in, but they're still so little. Not so much Hayden, but anyway, so no, toys are everywhere all the time. Okay, someone asked about chickens. Can I do a video on them? I've done a video on like keeping baby chicks. I don't know if you mean like adult chickens, but how many eggs do they make and when? So we have 27 chickens. It's really escalated. We started with 10 a few years ago, slowly creeped up, and then there was with the whole egg shortage situation in the spring, we were like, let's just double the flock. So we got a bunch of new chicks, and they're all laying now, so we were literally swimming in eggs. We probably get at least a dozen a day, usually more than a dozen. So we have so many eggs, which is amazing because we eat so many eggs. But that will slow down in the winter big time, and then it will pick up again in the spring. Somebody else asked, where's Rosie? She's right here. What age were you when you became a mom? I think I was 26. I think I was 25 when I got pregnant, and then I was 26 when Hayden was born. Okay, this is a good question. Do your kids trick or treat? Yes, my kids totally trick or treat. I know some people are like against it, but I don't know. I don't think too much about it. It's fun. We get to dress up in costumes. I love Halloween. My kids enjoy going out. It's always a good time had by all. So candy consumption. So here's what I do. So I obviously don't want them eating hordes of candy. Like, no, who does? But I also don't want to put any kind of complex around them that candy is bad. So we trick or treat. We're excited about the candy. It's all fun and like, it's all good times. And then when we get home, I give them the option. I don't force them, but I give them the option of doing the switch, which you may have heard about, which is where, you say, okay, pick like, I almost don't even want to put a number on it, but like say pick 5 or 10, whatever pieces of candy that you're comfortable with. And basically pick your favorite pieces of candy, keep them. And then the rest of the candy we'll put out for the switch. She'll come overnight while you're asleep, and then you'll get a toy or like a gift in the morning. So I don't force my kids. I say it's an option. I either say you can keep all your candy, or you can keep a few favorite pieces that you really want, and then you can get, we can ask the switch to come. So I don't force them into giving up their candy, but I give them the option. And of course they always want the toy. Like, of course, they've never once said no. So that is what we do. I feel like it works really well. I feel like there's so much, like, I always see the reels and the memes and everything every year. It's like me eating all my kids' Christmas candy or Halloween candy. And it's such a intuitive eating thing, like where, you know, I don't see it as bad. It's just like not that big of a deal. I love 100 grand. So like I'll always eat 100 grand, but they're rare to come by. And like I'll probably eat a couple Reese's cups and then I literally just like don't even care. It ends up sitting there and then we throw it out. Like it's just like not a big deal to me. So I don't make a big deal of it for my kids. Are you planning to have another hospital birth? Yes. Womp. I don't want to have a hospital birth. I don't like giving birth in the hospital. But I am on blood thinners because I had a DVT after my second daughter was born. So that puts me, it basically risks me out of midwifery care. And trust me, I have asked every birth center. I have talked to home birth midwives. I talked to my old home birth midwife, and she was even like, I want to do it for you. I really want to do it for you. But like, it's just not, we can't. Cause there's a chance that if you're, you know, the blood thinners are like fresh in your system and then all of a sudden the baby comes out and you could like hemorrhage and you want to be in the hospital so that you can get vitamin K to stop the bleeding. Like it makes sense. It totally makes sense. But my frustration lies with, I don't like giving birth in the hospital. It's just not my vibe. I don't like obstetric care. And last time, which is my first planned hospital birth, the heparin, was not even in my system. It was completely out of my system. So there was literally no reason for me to be there other than like this risk, this looming tiny risk. So yeah, planning a hospital birth, and honestly, I'm not very thrilled about it. How is Beau doing? He looks so big now. Beau is doing great. He is my little buddy. He is so big. He is humongous. He is tall like his dad, and he is like starting to get more like vocal. He doesn't say any words other than da, but everything is da, and we love him so much. He's just the sweetest little guy. Did you consider living with family for a bit while the cottage gets remodeled? So we're hopeful that, you know, we'll be out of like the construction phase. We're not moving in until like very early November. Cause that's when we're out of this house. So, we're hopeful that like, you know, walls are closed up and flooring is down and maybe even some appliances can be moved in the kitchen. That's really the only space that's torn up. Everything else in the house is fine. But if we need to move in with my parents for like a week or two, they live nearby, we totally could. We're just hopeful that, you know, we won't have to do that weird in between and we can just move into the new house. But you never know with construction, you just never know. So we'll see. How did you find your new house? Is it close to your current home? Yes, we're still gonna be in the same area. We're not leaving the area. We want to be in this area. It's very important to us to be near family. And we just love living here. But just Zillow, you know, and we had been kind of working with loosely with our realtor because we weren't like, hey, it's time to move, let's find a new house. It was more like we are open to moving if the right house comes along. And we were in that state for a while. We looked at a couple houses, never really found anything that we were like, this is it. But then as soon as this house came on the market, it like came on coming soon. And I actually, like Matt immediately texted it to me and was like, oh my God, like just listed off all the main points of the house that were like, that we wanted, that we were looking for. And I actually drove over there that night before we immediately scheduled a showing for the next day. I drove over there that night before we could get in. And I actually texted Matt, I just said, sold. Like, this is gonna be our house. So just on Zillow. Is the podcast coming back for baby number 4? Yes. I actually finally just filmed the first episode yesterday, and then I'm gonna get on a roll with filming those. The reason it's been so delayed is because if you listen to previous seasons of the pregnancy podcast, it's called The Bristow's Made a Baby. I always do it, it's Matt and I together. We sit down and we podcast together. It has been literally impossible to sit down together and have like no kids making noise, like quiet, or we can actually have like a full-blown 30 to hour-minute conversation. It's just like literally not happening. So I finally was just like, okay, I'm gonna solo podcast and then I will like add in, maybe he'll make some cameos. I'll add in some audio clips of like his insight, but that's how it's gonna be this season because otherwise it just like literally would not happen. All right, I'm gonna answer a few more. How did you learn of your DVT? So DVT, if you don't know, is deep vein thrombosis, and it's basically a blood clot that's in like the deep veins of usually your leg. I think I was like a week and a half postpartum and I started having like really bad pain overnight in my leg. But it was like in like the very top of my leg, it was the groin. So I thought maybe I had like a uterus infection or something. And the next day, the pain just kept getting worse. My mom had a DVT postpartum, and as soon as I told her what was going on, she was like, you have a DVT, go to the hospital. And I was like, no, I don't. Like, of course she knew. Mom always knows best. But then the pain just like quickly got worse, and I felt horrible. I literally felt like I was like dying, and the pain was like, I literally just gave birth unmedicated a week and a half before, and this pain was another level. Like I like could not stand up without crying. Like I could barely even get out of bed and get into the car to get to the hospital. Like that's how intense it was. So I was very aware that something was wrong and something was going on. My leg didn't ever turn purple. It never swelled. It was just really, really, really painful. So I obviously knew something was off. So I went to the hospital. They immediately ultrasounded it, and it was a DVT. How much weight did you gain with each pregnancy? It's been different every time. And honestly, like, truth be told, I don't pay attention that much to it. I feel like one of the gifts of eating intuitively is like you really just inherently trust your body to do what it needs to do. And I never go overboard. I'm never like binging because I'm always restricting when I'm not pregnant, and now is like my time to just like let loose and eat whatever I want. Like that's never been the case. So I feel like my body just kind of gains what it needs to gain. Like 30-ish pounds would be like my guess. They've all been a little different. I always tend to gain like quickly right in the first trimester. Like I get, I think I mentioned this in my first trimester video, but I literally like my entire waist just like thickens up. Like I get this like whole, almost like armor of fat to, you know, support the pregnancy, and then later on to support breastfeeding, to make sure I have plenty of stores to make lots of milk. And then I just tend to, and then I'll continue to gain a little bit throughout the pregnancy, like slowly as things move on, because there's a baby growing, there's more blood volume, there's a placenta, there's amniotic fluid, and then of course I'm actually also just gaining weight. But I feel like after that first initial, like lots of weight comes on, I mean, not lots, but weight comes on. And then it's just very steady from there on out, and then it kind of like tapers off at the end. That's usually how it works for me. And then I usually like hold on to like all of that like thickness in the middle, I guess you could say, like until the baby starts on solids. That's like really when I feel like my body just knows that like, okay, we're getting food from somewhere else. We're not like fully dependent on mom for all of our food. So then my body starts to like let go of some of that. And then gradually over like the next few months, I feel like that just kind of comes off in its own time. And that's just usually how it's always worked for me. How does this pregnancy compare to the other three? I would say it's pretty much the same. I feel like I might have been the most sick this time around, which is hard to say because I've been super sick in the beginning every time. But I don't know if it's just that this pregnancy was actually harder, or the one difference with this pregnancy is I actually am starting to feel like done, like feel content with this being my last baby. So I don't know if it's more just like it's like the last time and I'm just feeling a little worn out and everything feels maybe a little harder. And that's why I felt more sick. But also something that's been different about this pregnancy, and this is the first time this has ever happened to me, I think just with having 3 kids, which is, I've said this before, but it just feels way more chaotic than 2. Just to me, it's like a whole different ball game. Just so much more busy with the kids. And then obviously, literally like around the time I found out I was pregnant, that was when we bought the new house. So it's just been a very busy last few months. And there's just been a lot of like extra distraction, I feel like, than I've had in previous pregnancies. So this is the closest I've ever come to it just like flying by. And like sometimes not that I forget I'm pregnant because I never feel that great, but it's like the closest I've ever come to that. Like when women have said, like I've heard women say, you know, like this pregnancy is just flying, or like sometimes I even forget that I'm pregnant. Like I was always like, I literally could not relate less. Like that has never been my experience. I feel like it just crawls by and it's very difficult. And I'm so aware of all of the challenges that come along with pregnancy. But this one has been different in that way. And then it's also been different. This is the last question. Somebody asked, is this your last babe, or do you feel like you're going to have more? And the other big difference with this pregnancy is that I actually feel like this is it. We've always talked about 4, maybe 5. And I was always more in the camp of like, I want to have 5. Matt was always like, I feel better at 4. And just this pregnancy, it's just, I feel different. Like I really do. And who knows, like it's so hard to know until the baby's actually here and like you can picture the family and you can like see and feel if it feels right, or not right, but if you actually feel done. And I've honestly always feared that I would never feel that. And I would always just be like, oh, but like, oh, I just like want another one. But, and who knows, maybe when this baby is like 1 and I'm like, maybe I will. But I honestly I feel differently in this pregnancy. Like I feel like this one is my last. And I actually feel weirdly very content with that, because in prior pregnancies, I was literally like, I cannot imagine being done. Like I cannot imagine not doing this again. But I just feel like I'm shifting into like a different kind of place, like mindset wise, where I'm actually like looking forward to like the next kind of phase of our life when, we don't have, I'm not pregnant and nursing and, just like in that kind of, there's a lot of challenges that go along with that. There's a lot of beauty that comes along with that too. But I'm actually just like really looking forward to like moving on to the next phase with all of our sweet 4 babies, and just kind of lifting up out of the trenches a little bit. We're still gonna be in them for a little while because hello, they're 4, 2, 1, and 17 weeks. So we're definitely not out of the woods by any means yet, but it's the first time where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to get out of the woods. Like I'm ready for the next phase, and I'm excited for that. Excited to have a little bit more time to myself and to, focus on like being able to like work out again and like just all these little things that like have just been so put on hold, and not to be pregnant and sick and doing daily injections and like all of it. Like I'm actually like ready, I think, to move on after this, which is a blessing because I feared that I would never feel that. And I feel like I definitely do this time. So I think this is going to be it. Okay, a couple more questions that I saw that I feel like I didn't touch on at all. So what are your latest favorite diffuser blends? I feel like I need some ideas. This time of year, I'm all things like thieves and lemon, or like thieves and orange, or thieves and lemon myrtle. Like I just want all like the citrusy, warm, spicy, cozy, like fall candle vibes. I also love the oil Divana. It smells like apples to me. I only ever use 1 drop because it's so strong, but anything like cassia and cinnamon and nutmeg, like all of those warm, cozy, spicy fall smells paired with citrus, like that's my go-to. Okay, and then essential oils in kids. I see so many conflicts saying don't use them with or around kids and pets. And then, or what I was gonna say was, yes, there's so much conflicting information out there, but that's because there's so little, like there's no differentiality between like quality. A lot of times when you see these like broad claims that they're unsafe or that they are safe or whatever, quality really matters. Like, and there's basically no oversight of the essential oil industry. So someone can bottle up something that's full of like synthetics and stabilizers and fillers and say it's 100% pure, and they can put it on the shelf and no one's telling them that they can't do that. So you have to be really cognizant of quality. I use, as you guys probably know, I use Young Living oils. I've used them for over 6 years now. We've got a dog in the house. My cats were in the house when they were kittens. Obviously I've got kids and we diffuse all the time. We've never ever once had an issue. We've never ever once had an adverse reaction. We obviously practice safety. We use them correctly. We're not, dumb about it. But as long as you're using quality oils and you're using them safely, they are incredibly beneficial and can be amazing tools to kind of have in your like mom toolbox. That, there's no real, there's no other replica for that you can get out there on the market. Essential oils are a very unique thing and they're so helpful in so many ways, but you do have to be careful of quality and they're not all created equal. Okay, last question, because another birth question. I love these. Are you preparing with Hypnobabies again? I've used Hypnobabies with all of my past pregnancies, although I feel like each time I just do it less and less. Like I did it full ham with my first. I listened to a lot of the tracks with my second. With my third, I feel like I listened to them here and there, like really just like before, like leading up to birth. And I feel like I'll probably do the same thing this time, maybe even less, because, by this point I understand how labor works. I'm very familiar with it. I know what I need to do to feel comfortable in labor. I know what works for me. Even in my last birth, I feel like I have some new insights that are going to make this birth even easier and more, concrete, I guess, this time around, like knowing when to go to the hospital and like all of that. So I'll definitely do some of the tracks just to like kind of retrain my brain how to really deeply relax, because that is so, so, so important. And my last and third birth, or previous birth, was the one that I was able to completely relax through the entire thing, like completely relaxed through transition, was laying down in bed, did not move, did not make a sound. I was completely relaxed, and it was the easiest one that I've had. And I owe it a lot to learning how to deeply relax with Hypnobabies. And also something to remember, especially if you're a new mom and you're planning a natural birth, something that you have during labor that you don't have any other time in your life is this cascade of hormones. So you may think like, how on earth am I going to do this? But if you're able to relax, like, and let your body do what it's meant to do, like those hormones, like they are literally there to, and like the, not so much adrenaline, you don't really want adrenaline because that kind of counteracts labor, but all of the endorphins that get released during labor, like it just, you can get into this like mind space where you really can deeply relax, where you almost can't replicate that any other time because you don't have all of those very exact hormones coursing through your body, if that makes sense. Okay, that was so many questions. I feel like this video is going to be so long, so I'm going to wrap it up. If I mention any videos, I will try my best to link them down below so you guys can go watch those if I reference them, or if I reference anything to link, I'll put it down below. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for being on this journey with me for so long. If you've been here for years, if you're brand new, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe, join my little community here on YouTube, especially as we're kind of moving into this fun new chapter of life with a new baby and a new house, and lots of updates to come. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.